Hey guys, Dan at BinaryWonder.com. Coming to you today to talk about Microsoft DOS retro games. So I don't know if you were like me growing up in the 90s. You played a lot of DOS games if you're a PC person. So I wanted to take some time and go through a lot of those old DOS games that many of us played. So I decided to look through my retro collection. I actually have 77 games from the DOS era that I've acquired through different means, either owned it directly at the time, purchased it on Amazon, bought it on eBay. Steam has a number of those games still available on modern platforms, which appears to be running DOSBox in the background. And I thought it would be fun to have a multi-part series where I go through a lot of those games. So the first part will cover the range from 1984 to 1989. You'll see some games in this first part series like 688 Attack Sub, which was released for a number of different platforms, including Sega, I believe, as well as IBM and Tandy. The King's Quest series, parts 1 through 4 will be covered. The Space Quest series, part 1 through 3 will be covered. Double Dragon, which was also an arcade game on several different platforms. Prince of Persia, the original one, there is a second, and I think there's even one beyond just two. And as well as SimCity Classic, Street Rod, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So I think this will be fun. There's 13 games total that I'll review in this first part, and there'll be 7 parts total. So I think between all 7 parts I can get through all 77 games. So it'll be fun. Looking forward to it. All right, guys, this is King's Quest 1. This is one of the games in the first part of the series we're talking about. As I just said, we're going to review King's Quest 1 through 4. This is King's Quest 1. It's actually available on Steam. And this is a pretty basic early Sierra game. You can see it's kind of got the Sierra interface, where you've got a score on top, and you can control your action through cursor keys. You can see Graham moving up. And I fell in the moat and died. There's just, with King's Quest 1, I was never really big into this game. This game really came out before I was into Sierra too much. But I think Space Quest 3 is kind of when I came onto this similar platform. We'll talk about Space Quest. That's the series I really played the most. King's Quest obviously had a strong following too, and used the same platform. As I recall, there wasn't much of a plot for King's Quest 1. You just kind of had to go around and do different missions for the king. And we'll take a look at King's Quest 2. All right, now this is King's Quest 2. You can read the storyline, but Graham is now the king of Daventry. Invariably, something bad will happen, and you'll have to go on quests. Same sort of user interface. This one actually, I think the story behind this is that the mirror shows him a vision of a beautiful woman in captivity, and then obviously, being the king, you're going to have to go and rescue. So we see a tower here. Of course, the beautiful woman is in the tower, because that's how it always is. So he takes off his crown, puts back his normal cap with a feather, and he must be off to adventure. So let's see if we can fast forward. I've actually never played this one. You've got some nice graphics here, and I think what was really cool about this game came out, I believe, 1985. King's Quest I was 1984. I mean, this was really advanced for the time. I think many of the games before this, adventure games, were sort of room-based. I guess if you think about it, this game's kind of room-based, but divided into scenes. Well, that's interesting. You've got sort of a modern-looking house in this old-time place, even with a mailbox. That's interesting. And a carport. So obviously we're somewhere in the future. And I'm controlling this with cursors. So you get the idea of King's Quest II. I think the later King's Quests use the same sort of engine. We can actually type in some commands if we want to look. We see a cozy cottage located in thick wood. Patio shades the front entrance, and flowers adorn a window box. So same sort of engine as King's Quest I. Graphics seem very similar to King's Quest I, the story. I don't think in these early King's Quests there wasn't a huge investment in the story. It was probably more about the gameplay than anything else. So let's take a look at King's Quest III. So here's King's Quest III. At the intro screen. Some of the animation seems to be getting a little bit more advanced now. This one was, I believe it was released in 1986. Came out for DOS, Amiga, Apple, Tandy, the classic PC compatible or non-console games at the time, platforms. So let's see if we can get through some of this. So not much different here, except interesting, there's a timer. Something just materialized up here. It's a wizard. For a minute, it just looked like a face or hat. My office is dusty. Clean it at once. So interesting. He just disappeared again. So not much has changed in the platform. It seems that King's Quest I, II, and III all use the same sort of engine. It's actually rather difficult to walk up. I have to push the diagonal key because I keep running into the edge, which is interesting. Looks like 16 colors. Again, we have to do this diagonal thing, but the diagonal is not even working for me this time. It's really weird. So the plot here moves away from Daventry and King Graham to a boy named Gwydion, who's being kept by a wicked wizard. So that must have been the wicked wizard we saw. And invariably, we have to solve puzzles, go on missions. This is interesting. There's a timer on this. I'll have to look into and see what that has to do with. But this is basically King's Quest III, sort of just a storyline different version. It seems the engine again seems to be the same. Let's take a look at King's Quest IV. All right, this is King's Quest IV. What was actually interesting about this was the first one that seemed to have some sort of copy protection of some type, where it actually asked you different questions about words in the manual. So This is interesting. So this is 1988, I believe King's Quest IV was released. So far, looks very similar. 16 colors as far as I can tell. All right, King's Quest IV. This was the first King's Quest that actually asked for some sort of copy protection. It asked for words in the manual to make sure that I guess we actually own the product. And believe it or not, it's kind of hard for me to get it right. So, so anyway, we're at the intro scene to King's Quest IV. The engine seems very similar, 16 colors as far as I can tell. They're getting more advanced with, I guess these are bitmaps, and some of the graphics and some animations. So King Graham obviously has just gotten sick. I haven't been watching the storyline. Like I said, King's Quest wasn't a big series for me. I mean, growing up, Space Quest was really the big Sierra a series that I played. So let's fast forward and we can see. This is actually a pretty nice scene. I guess we're actually the woman this time. These are some pretty good scenes for 1988. That was a deep river. Much deeper than it looked. Let's see if we can find something. Get into some trouble. The Perils of Rosella. So, I'm assuming there's danger. Oh, that can't be good. A cave that in the side of a mountain, kind of like a hobbit hole. Let's go in there. See if we can go in there. Oh man, don't even tell me I'm gonna die by falling off of this little cliff that can't be more than 6 feet tall. At the most, Sierra and its diagonal keys again. What's going on here? You've encountered a group of small men working this diamond mine. That can't be bad to have a diamond mine. They're not too friendly, though, as one of them forcefully tells you to leave the premises. I guess if I had a diamond mine, I'd tell people to get out of there, too. So this is kind of an interesting map, some pretty good graphics. I wonder what this... I believe this was released on other platforms, too. I'm curious what this would look like in sort of a non-PC compatible type platform. So anyway, this is King's Quest IV. Fairly interesting. Let's move on to the Space Quest series right now.